Hey everybody, it's Tristan Shuffles here, back with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel deck profile, and even if you're just here for this deck list, remember to like, comment, and subscribe because it really makes a difference for the channel. Yesterday, the new set released, which had Varudris in it, which gives Yubel an Omni Negate to protect it from some of the board breakers that the Master Duel version of the deck was having trouble with. Unfortunately, the set also printed Yubel's natural counterpart, Molcharmy Fulos, which punishes you for special summoning from the deck or extra deck. Among the combo decks, Yubel is one of the ones that is weak to Maxi and weak to Fulos, but it feels like the strongest in terms of flexibility right now because we still have two copies of Phantom of Yubel, which is effectively a Link Zero because you can use the fusion materials for it from your graveyard, face up field, or hand. And it's always going to beat one of your opponent's hand traps unless they're firing those off before the main phase or they're using Infinite Impermanence, which this deck has been somewhat weak to in the past. But now we have some ways to bait that out by using a Kashtira package of 2 Unicorn, 1 Fenrir, and 1 Kashtira Birth to try to get your opponent to activate Infinite Impermanence because they don't know what you're playing, and they might waste it on one of the Kashtira monsters. Either way, Fenrir is one of the best board breakers for you going second, and Unicorn is one of the best extenders going first because you can bring it back with the Kashtira Birth that it searches, which makes this deck a little less normal summon reliant, and you can play the Kashtira package against any deck, whereas something like the Bystials is only going to be useful against decks using light attribute or dark attribute monsters, and you don't really want to banish your own cards for the Bystials. Let's go through the card by card. First off, we have the 3 Samsara D Lotus. This has to be hit with Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence before it uses its effect, otherwise you're going to be getting out the Spirit of Yubel directly from your deck. So you can somewhat play around that. You can even link it off for Outmirage if it's your normal summon, and then bring it back with Opening of the Spirit Gates. Then we have the semi-limited Dark Beckoning Beast. This is the strongest normal summon. This is generally the one that I'm searching for the most with the 3 Nightmare Throne. I'm trying to keep it close to 40 cards to increase the chances of drawing Nightmare Throne, but you can experiment with a couple more cards. I also cut Crossout Designator because I found that now that the Molcharmies are in the game, it's not a definitive end to your opponent's interruptions when you have Crossout Designator, but you can add that back in if you're comfortable with playing over 41 cards. Then we have 3 Maxi, because it's still a 3 in Master Duel. Let's hope that era ends soon. 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring to counter Molcharmy Fulos and the opponent's Maxi. Then I have the 2 Molcharmy Fulos. I think these could probably be Effect Veilers, but I'm just experimenting with 2 copies of it right now. Although people are adapting their decks to face Fulos by playing stuff like Labyrinth or Centurion, which it doesn't really have a good matchup with, I think it's still strong to play for right now. We'll see how the metagame develops. Then we have the 3 Spirit of Yubel. You obviously want to be summoning this as much as possible. Its effect to special summon the original Yubel when it's destroyed is not once per turn, although searching for Nightmare Pain is once per turn, and Nightmare Pain will get you another search, and you'll destroy another copy of Yubel to go through that mainline combo, which we'll see in the replays. Next up, we have Terror Incarnate. As I said before, this is a bit of a soft Garnet, and that's okay because we can even discard it for something like 1-for-1, which you're always going to want to be special summoning Samsara D Lotus with. I'm playing 1 Triple Tactics Talent. I never want to see 2 of this, but you can play 2 if that feels better for you. Again, this allows you to draw 2 cards, or take control of 1 monster your opponent controls, or look at your opponent's hand, choose 1 card, shuffle it back into the deck. We've also got Wraithoth, which is part of the Kashtira package that I mentioned earlier. Nightmare Throne, I've talked about already. This is one of the greatest field spells ever printed. I wish we had Terraforming so that we could play 4 copies, but that wasn't meant to be. Next up, we have Opening of the Spirit Gates, allows you to search another Dark Beckoning Beast, and gives you enough normal summonable fiend type monsters to link those off for Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. And then you can do the combo where you're adding the 1 copy of Unchained Soul of Sharvara so that you can end on Unchained Soul of Rage with a Yama in the graveyard, which you can use to link summon with monsters your opponent controls on their following turn. We got 2 copies of Call by the Grave to counter the opponent's hand traps, and 3 infinite impermanents. In case we go second, we can make the opponent's board a lot weaker. Then for the extra deck, the 2 Phantom of Yubel, the 1 Chaos Angel that you can make with the level 9 Phantom of Yubel and the level 1 monsters in your deck. Next up we have Varudris. This feels excellent to play because now you're even less weak to board breakers than you were in the previous format, and Tenpai is probably going to be playing more board breakers now that they have fewer copies of Tenpai Dragon Chundra. Next up we have Superstar Slayer Typhon. I like to play this for matchups like Centurion, where they have a lot of monsters with more than 3,000 attack points. You could be playing Summon Sorceress, and I see the appeal of Summon Sorceress, right? Because Summon Sorceress allows you to bridge the gap in the deck between the Dark Beckoning Beast side of your combo and your Yubel side, where if you don't have any Yubel monsters or the Samsara D Lotus, you could be in a bit of a bind. But I think it's so much better to have more flexible cards like Typhon and Almirage, especially because those are only 1 special summon, and that will play better into Maxi than the Summon Sorcerer combo, which is only really helping you if your opponent doesn't have any hand traps and you haven't drawn a good hand, which is generally a sign that you should have just played it safer in the first place earlier in the turn. Next up we have Unchained Soul of Rage that I've talked about. Cross Sheep, which gives you a free special summon from your graveyard when you put a fusion monster into one of the zones it points to, i.e. Phantom of Yubel. Then we have Muckraker from the Underworld. This helps you bring back your Fiend type monsters from the graveyard. Of course, it'll Fiend lock you, so watch out for that. Then we have 2 Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. You need 2 copies of this. If your opponent hits this with their Kashtira Unicorn, you lose a lot of options. So I really like playing 2 of this for now until we get the Fiendsmith cards. SP Little Knight, one of the best extra cards in the game. Then we have Unchained Soul of Anguish. I find myself making this a lot. Don't cut this because there will be a lot of times where you have an Unchained monster and you just want to get to Access Code Talker and close out the game, because generally Yubel depends on the Nightmare Pain based attacks where you're dealing damage based on your opponent's monster's attack points, and so they might be playing around that by not playing any monsters, so you can just close out the game with Access Code instead, and it's much easier to do that with 3 link materials and one of your opponent's monsters than with 4 link materials. But if you have 4 link materials on turn 1, you're making Apollousa Bow of the Goddess, which will give you enough monster negates that it will be difficult for your opponent to power through. That being said, I think the Yubel is seriously still a strong deck, and I'd like to show off some gameplay, so let's get into those games. First up, we have a duel against a Tenpai opponent who wasn't really able to interrupt us at all. At least I assume they're on Tenpai since they were going second, but this shows off what happens when we can use our full combo. Let's start off with Wraith Oath, adding Kashtira Unicorn. Then we can special summon Unicorn to add the Kashtira Birth for extension later. Normal summon Dark Beckoning Beast to add Opening of the Spirit Gates. Use Spirit Gates to add the second Dark Beckoning Beast. And then we replace the field spell with the Nightmare Throne to add the Samsara D Lotus, which we can use with our additional normal summon, special summoning Spirit of Yubel from our deck. Then we can use the Nightmare Pain that we search off that, setting it in the back row to play around Droll. Then we use both effects of the Spirit of Yubel and the Nightmare Throne to special summon out the Terror Incarnate and the original Yubel. Then with Cross Sheep on the field, we can put back 2 of our monsters to special summon Spirit of Yubel, link those off into Apollousa. Then we're just getting started here. We use Gruesome Grave Scormer, send Yubel to the graveyard, and we can bring out Unchained Soul Lord Yama, add Sharvara from our deck to our hand. Then I pop Sharvara with Yama because I want to get the trap card from my deck to the field. Then we can link those off for Unchained Soul of Rage, set the Escape of the Unchained that I used to be playing until I replaced it with Chamber, and then bring out another Spirit of Yubel bring back the original Yubel with Spirit Gates, and Xyz summon the brand new Varudras, final bringer of the end times, put that in defense position to play around Lightning Storm somewhat, bring back the Unicorn at long last. The opponent uses Infinite Impermanence, trying to negate Apollousa. Clearly they had Nibiru the Primal Being, but that wasn't enough to stop us with so many negates on board. Next up, we have a duel against Centurion, and although we are going first and they don't get to do a lot, one thing they do is activate Dimension Shifter, which forces us to play very differently, but Yubel is actually pretty good into Dimension Shifter. Let's search Dark Beckoning Beast, normal summon that. Adding opening of the Spirit Gates, we get our free normal summon of Samsara D. Lotus, bring out the Spirit of Yubel, and set the Nightmare Pain for some protection during the next battle phase. Then we can destroy the Spirit of Yubel in our hand to bring out the original Yubel. Use Gruesome Graveswarmer to get that on the field. Don't destroy the Yubel, because we want to keep that around. We can link those off into Almirage and SP Little Knight, banish the Dimension Shifter, and Xyz summon Varudras, which we didn't have the option of doing in the past. Passing over to the opponent, they activate Emblema Oath, bring out the Emeth 6, and we can negate and destroy that right away, leaving them on only one monster summon, and they don't seem to have anything after that, but we had Ash Blossom and SP Little Knight to back us up. Okay, now you probably want to see a game where the opponent actually gets to do a lot, and this Tenpai opponent absolutely has some plays. They start off with Maxi, which really limits our options even with a pretty decent opening hand. Let's use Nightmare Throne, add Samsara D. Lotus, use Nightmare Pain to destroy the spirit, add another spirit for the battle phase next turn, and bring out the original Yubel. That's one special summon. We try to use Samsara D. Lotus to bring out a spirit on field, and we are not able to because they have Ash Blossom, and I have to bring back the Lotus, giving them one extra draw in the end phase. Alright, we have the Infinite Impermanence set. They use Sangan Kaimen in the main phase, which gives us some more flexibility and allows me to commit to this Infinite Impermanence on their Tenpai Dragon Hydra. They already have Chandra, that makes sense. They attack, but they're forced to attack into Yubel, and they take the Nightmare Pain damage and the original damage from Yubel's effect. They bring out their Meteor Burst Dragon to prevent Yubel's effect from activating further. They Synchro Summon into the Biden Dragon, and they bring back their Hydra and Synchro Summon into Transcendent Dragon. Unfortunately, none of these monsters clear Yubel, so they pretty much destroy Nightmare Pain so they don't have to attack and lose and pass. But now we can use Gruesome Graveswarmer to bring out the Terror Incarnate, which will be good link material this turn and give us more material in the graveyard for Spirit of Yubel. Let's summon Soul Lord Yama, use its effect. Unfortunately, that gets hit with Effect Veiler. That's no problem though, because we still have Spirit of Yubel. And now we can use Gruesome Graveswarmer's effect, and they try to use Ghost Bell on it, but we can negate that with Phantom of Yubel, which will also give us more Yubels from our deck to the field. They have Infinite Impermanence though, so we're not able to end the game off of Spirit of Yubel's effect to search Nightmare Pain, but I can still summon the Unchained monster and link that off for Axis Kotaker using their monster, but they have Nibiru. Okay, their life points are still low though. We use Nightmare Throne's second effect to bring out the Terror Incarnate, link those off for Cross Sheep. We can set up the second Spirit of Yubel, bring back the Samsara D. Lotus, and Synchro Summon into Chaos Angel, which is more than enough tack points to close out the duel after banishing their Nibiru. So, we've seen what this deck can do going first, but let's see what we can do going second against Labyrinth. We draw our opener, and I activated the Maxi right away, not knowing they were on Labyrinth, and I thought that was the safe call, but I'm somewhat punished as they set 3 back row and pass. Okay, we at least stopped them from playing on turn 1. They use Big Welcome. Let's activate the brand new Fuelos to at least get 1 draw. Not as good as the 2 we would have gotten if I kept the Maxi. Okay, let's use Kashtira Unicorn to search the Kashtira Birth. That way we could have normal summoned Fenrir if I wanted to, but I really just wanted the extra link material. So here we go. With Samsara D. Lotus effect, we bring out the Spirit of Yubel, setting the Nightmare Pain, play around roll. Then we use Nightmare Pain to destroy Spirit of Yubel, and we use this effect to bring out the original Yubel, use Graveswarmer, destroy that Yubel, so we can get Terror Incarnate on the field. Then they use Trap Trick. They use Dimension Barrier to prevent summoning Spirit of Yubels with Fusion Summoning, and they set up their Daruma Karma Cannon. They fire it off right away as I banish a card from their extra deck. Doesn't really matter against Labyrinth. Okay, now I destroyed the Gruesome Graveswarmer and use the Spirit Gates to bring back Spirit of Yubel. Let's link those off into Unchained Soul Lord Yama, add back the Sharvara as it sets the Abominable Chamber of the Unchained from the deck. Then we use Kashtira Birth, and we have that on field so that we can bring back Yubel, bring back the Fenrir that we sent to the graveyard earlier, and now we can inflict 2,900 points of damage in the battle phase there thanks to Nightmare Pain. Okay, let's link those off for SP Little Knight because we can always bring Fenrir back with Birth, and we know that Labyrinth's back row is stronger than their monsters. Let's tribute the Terror Incarnate, bring back Samsara Lotus, and pass. The opponent uses Ariana. We can turn that effect into destroying our Yubel with Samsara Lotus' second effect, and use Soul Lord Yama to bring back a Spirit of Yubel, so that they're basically going to have to attack here and take those points of damage. Then they set their 2 back row. That's all we have to clear, except for maybe the 3rd back row that they're going to set, and they have Big Welcome in the graveyard. But I can use SP to respond to that, and they use Full Force Virus, but I didn't want them to be able to set another trap card from their deck, and that resolves destroying a lot of our cards. We still have the Kashtira Birth and the opening of the Spirit Gates to bring everything back. The opponent realizes this, and even with Trap Trick, they decide to scoop it up from there. So we're back with the deck list, and I think that playing this Kashtira package is the best way to supplement the Yubel engine, especially in contrast to cards like Puri Rise Map, where you'll sacrifice half your life points in order to search for one starter, which is just going to lose to the same hand traps that the Kashtiras can bait out from your opponent instead. Of course, when the Fiendsmith cards hopefully release soon, that'll be an even stronger engine to help Yubel reach its full potential. That'll do it for this video. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you all in the next one.